Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our February 2025 book club discussion of a fabulous book that you guys have been buzzing about, and we are so excited. Yay! I know. Oh, I should say it. The Vanishing of Josephine. Y'all know what it is. The Vanishing of Josephine Reynolds with the amazing Jennifer Moorman. Oh, I'm Lisa Harrison, by the way, for those of you that are just joining us.
I was going to introduce you, Lisa.
I'm with my
That's
beautiful
Lisa.
co-host, Brenda. But Brenda, you want to go ahead and introduce who they're really here to see
I
tonight?
know. I know. They're really here for the fabulous Jennifer Moorman. So I would be delighted to introduce her today. Jennifer writes enchanting novels inspired by the everyday magic and whimsy in the world around her. She is the USA Today bestselling author, not just of Josephine Reynolds, but the magical realism Mystic Water series, The Baker's Man, The Magic All Around, and of course, The Vanishing of Josephine Reynolds that we're here to talk about tonight. Born and raised in southern Georgia, Jennifer has a deep love for nature, a fondness for honeysuckle, and childhood memories of whippoorwills singing her to sleep. She's a foodie, a self taught baker, and has a travel bag ready for her next adventure. She can always be won over with chocolate unicorns or rainbows. When she's not writing, you can find her testing a new recipe, chasing rainbows, or stargazing. Jennifer also co hosts the One Happy Thing podcast with best selling authors Carrie Ann King and Maddie Dawson, which I want to ask her about later. She lives in a magic house in Nashville, Tennessee, and we welcome her here tonight.
Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so
Yay!
much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank y'all for having me. I've been looking forward to this 4 weeks.
Oh,
We're so
wonderful. We have
excited to
two.
have you. We are so excited that you joined us tonight.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And I love your vibrantly colored turtleneck. That's so pretty and fitting for the book. So, book club members, as we begin our discussion tonight, please be sure to put additional questions in the chat because we may be able to ask Jennifer about it. And as always, we are spoiler free until 7:15, but that leaves us lots of time still to dig into this intriguing story. Jennifer, could you give us a summary for those who are tuning in just for the spoiler free time?
Yes. So, The Vanishing of Josephine Reynolds is the story of Josephine. And when the story starts, Josephine, she's feeling really down, and she makes a wish to never have been born. And what she doesn't realize is how powerful that wish is. And it sends ripples out into all space and time. And not long after Josephine makes that wish, she buys and moves into her ancestral home. And the front door of the house has been replaced with a generic door. So, one of the first things that Josephine wants to do is replace that. So, she goes to a local architectural salvage yard and she finds not only a historic door, but the original door that was on the house. So Josephine has the door rehung, and the first time she unlocks the door and steps across the threshold, she steps into 1927, which is really fun and exciting. She gets to be in the 1920s, which I personally love, and she gets to meet her great grandmother when her great grandmother was young. And that is super cool to her, except it doesn't take long for Josephine to realize that that wish that she made to never have been born is unraveling her past. And so the story becomes this race against time for Josephine to save not only her family, but also herself before she completely vanishes.
So good, you guys.
I
So,
know,
so
I just
good.
love it. And the funny thing is it is, it is historical fiction, it's time travel, but it also was packed with so many interesting themes to explore, from the grief and loss that Josephine felt to, you know, the choices we make and what the consequences are, the glamour of the past compared to the reality of the present. So there's a lot to unpack. So I think the first thing I'd like to ask you about is your title, because I was intrigued from the beginning, because vanishing could have several connotations. So was it the original title, and how did you settle on it?
That's a great question. It was not the original title. So it's not often that when I start writing a book, I know what the title is. The Baker's Man, I always knew the title to, but the other books, sometimes it comes organically when I'm writing, other times it doesn't come at all. So what I was calling this book originally was Among the Whispering and the Stars. And that is a quote from The Great Gatsby. And it's also
Mhm.
plays a part in the story, but that's just what I was calling it at the beginning. And then once I turned in my manuscript and I was talking with my editor about the title, you don't actually know what the story's about if I title it Among the Whispering and the Stars. And what we like to do is give the book a title that kind of gives you a sneak peek into what might be inside. So then we started tossing around, ideas. Joseph and I was not intending on having her name in there, but a couple of the ideas we thought, well, let's put Josephine's name in there. So one of the thoughts was the disappearance of Josephine Reynolds, but that made me think of almost more like a kidnapping kind of thing. Like disappearing
Yeah.
and vanishing have two different connotations for us. And with that, I thought, well, what about the vanishing? Because I already knew that there's some vanishing that's happening in the story, and I thought that would be a really good fit, and they loved it. So that's just how we landed on the final title.
Love it.
That's just great. It has that little magical touch to it to make it special. So I'm also curious about this being a historical fiction novel, but with time travel. So how do you how do you address the whole quagmire of pulling off the time travel?
Well, I would describe this more of light historical fiction because I know
Mhm.
so many fabulous historical fiction authors, and I know that they do sometimes years of research. I mean, just so much more research. And what I wanted to do with the historical aspects was put enough in there where I could place you in the 20s and it's believable to you. You know, you have such a wonderful imagination that if I give you a couple of pushes or hints, you can create this world very easily in your mind because we're more familiar with the 20s. So I did do research for not only the 20s and the music and the dresses and the slang, but also Nashville in the 20s because the story takes place in Nashville, Tennessee in 1927 as well as the present day. And since I live in present day Nashville, that's really easy for me. But the historical aspect, I did a bit of research so that I could, put you there and make you feel like it was believable. The time travel can be really tricky. And in sci-fi, I find that time travel is more challenging because there's a lot more rules that you really need to follow. So time travel for magical realism doesn't involve a contraption or a vehicle like the DeLorean. It doesn't have the time machine. It is more of what I think of as portal magic because you're stepping through something
Oh,
into another place. A little bit like the Chronicles of Narnia and the wardrobe. I know it's not time travel, but you are stepping through this into this, whole new world. I feel like Enchanted time travel is way easier. I just I have some rules, but they're really easy to figure out and follow. And then the rest of it just is more about the characters and what they're experiencing. Like time travel is a part of the vehicle, but really I feel like the story is more about the characters and their growth throughout the story.
that's
Oh,
awesome.
absolutely.
I
We
love the
get to
whole
know.
portal magic
Mhm.
part. I love that.
I know that describes it much um, more succinctly. So that's pretty awesome. Well, one of our book club members had an advanced question for you related to that, and that is Shayna wants to know. I would love to ask how you kept track of these timelines and what existed when. You blew me away with how you kept track of it.
Oh, wow. Gosh, that's a great question. Thank you for that one. Gosh, I mean, I don't know. Isn't that funny? I have no idea. I think that I had more of a challenge, as you mentioned already, Brenda, the 1920s or wherever other time that people may bounce to in a story feels more fascinating than your ordinary life, which I don't think lives are ordinary. I think they're extraordinary anyway, but you can feel like your day-to-day activities are not as interesting as the 20s. So I had more of a challenge with the timeline in that making her present day interesting enough
Mhm.
where she would, does she want to go to the 20s and stay? Does she want to stay in her present day? Who knows? But making your present day fascinating enough to you and important enough to you and to Josephine for her to want to stay. So I guess keeping the timeline, I think, felt easier for me. I don't know. That's such a cool question. I need to give it more thought. I didn't write a bunch of notes to keep myself on track because it's like if she was bouncing back and forth, I knew she was going back and forth. It felt easier for me to know what was happening.
It was
Uh,
so
that
seamless
makes
in the
sense.
book. Yeah, it
Thank
was really
Yeah,
seamless.
it
I
really.
have, go ahead, Brenda. I'm sorry. There's a bit of a
No,
delay.
you go ahead.
There's a couple of comments that I'd like to share with you from the chat. Lisette says, if you haven't read this yet, you absolutely should. It's a 5-star read. Michelle says, I'm a sucker for time travel books and things set in the 1920s. Francine says, indeed, it is a 5-star read. I loved it. Um, Everyone's saying 5-star read, 5-star read, 5-star read.
thank you.
Uh, Lots of love for you in the chat. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh,
So
that's
much
really
love.
nice.
Thank you.
Well, Jennifer, I was curious about something else. I was curious about your dedication. So hopefully, since it's in there, it's not off limits. But your dedication reads to Josephine. I've never forgotten that day on the riverbank, you and me watching the sunset in Florida. You wondering if anybody ever really saw you, asking if you were a ghost. This book is for you because I saw you then and I see you now, and you're absolutely unforgettable. So, who was Josephine?
Okay, are y'all ready for this? So
Well,
I'm
I
gonna,
think
I'm
We're
so.
gonna,
leaning in.
okay,
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm gonna share this as kindly as possible. Every summer when I was a little girl, my dad would send me to my grandparents' house in Florida for about a week. And my grandmother was part of the Vacation Bible School. She was the head of the arts and crafts. And so I would go during that week specifically, and I would go every day with her to Vacation Bible School and help her with the crafts. And my grandfather, he called me Josephine. I don't know why. He never called me Jennifer. He was an ex-Navy captain, also doctor, and was incredibly, incredibly strict. And just, I got,
Oh,
as an adult looking back, I don't think he understood children. And maybe little girls were totally out of his realm. He had boys and they were much, much older. They were probably grown men when I was a little girl. And one day I was sitting out in the living room and I was doing a craft and I was cutting something over my lap and he came in and he said, you need to you need to take that outside. Do not do crafts in the house. And I thought he just didn't want me to make a mess. So I went and got a towel, laid it over my lap, and kept cutting. Well, he came back through and he was incredibly angry and, was really upset that I did not obey him because I'm thinking back, this is a military guy. He gives an order, people follow it. And I did not. I was 9 years old. I was just a little girl. It hurt my feelings, y'all. And I just went outside and cried because I thought,
oh,
gosh, if he knew my little girl heart, he would never have done that. He never would have said that. And I just felt in that moment as a little girl, totally unseen. But the happy part of this story is that little girl is who writes these stories. She's the one who just keeps believing that there's goodness and kindness. And I don't want to imply he wasn't good or kind. He just did not know how to talk to little girls. I think he probably meant well. He didn't want me to make a mess in the house, but I was a child. So this is such a strange dedication in a way because when I got ready to write it, that little girl, Josephine is not me. The story's not about me, but that little
Right.
girl in Josephine just showed up to me, and I thought, oh, this is for her. This is just to honor that little girl and all of us that just keeps on keeping on, writes stories, believes in magic and just goodness. And I just felt so like I had to write it to her just to say, I see you. And when I started writing Josephine, I knew the first line was Josephine Reynolds was a ghost. And it just all kind of tied together.
Wow. You're muted, Brenda.
So sorry. Thank
That's
you for sharing
amazing.
that with us. I didn't realize it was so personal, but I'm glad you brought up the first line because it is really powerful.
Very
Your
powerful.
your first line of the book. Well, we have reached
Yeah.
7:15, so it is time for it to be okay for spoilers. So book club
Yay.
members, if you haven't finished yet, you can join us back again and look at the recording. But we're gonna head on out because there's some really neat stuff in here.
Yeah. And I do have some questions from the chat.
Okay.
Sharon would like to know, do you know anyone that restores old houses, or do you do research to see what would have changed during that time frame in a home?
Oh, this is a fun question. I don't know anyone personally who restores houses, but I watch a lot of TV. I do love watching house renovation shows. I love old homes. I love the history and the magic in old homes. So I do a lot of research, and I was able to find a lot of house plans and research for Nashville homes, in this area. And actually, Nashville still has a lot of their historic homes in pockets that are their late 1800s. You can, if you know the people, actually, I know a real estate agent who let me tour one of these old homes. So you can get a really good idea of the way they look. Now, I know that there have been updates and changes to some of them through the years, but there's so many pictures of these homes when they were original with the wallpaper and the rest of it. I just used my imagination to, what did this house look, how did it shine when it was brand new?
Oh,
Love it. That was a
I
great
love that.
question, Sharon. Thank you.
Oh, I thought you had another one. Well, I would like to jump right in and just talk about Josephine a little bit because in the beginning of this novel, she is really, a very broken person. She's in a really dark place. And really even her family can't get her out of it or can't, help pull her out of it. But in the end, in the story, it's family that saves her. So I just wondered if you how you balance the family connections and I don't know, just brought us through that whole um the generations.
Gosh, you asked such tough questions. It is really a great question. So, I don't want to assume, but a lot of us have experienced grief in some version. You don't have to have grief the same way that Josephine has experienced it or for the same reasons, but that part, I don't want to say it's easy to write, but it's familiar because I have also grieved different things. And you can grieve the loss of a job, you can grieve moving from your home, I mean, breaking up with your friend, I mean, all kinds of things. So, that feels like something I have experienced for sure. I've definitely had one of those days where I'm like,
Hmm.
I am totally done with this thing. And I have a really wonderful family. And I love weaving in. I mean, nobody in this book is my family member, but there are pieces of it. I actually prefer to say those feelings that you have for other people or the emotions that you experience in a situation. That's what I'm writing about. It's not the person, but it's like I know what it's like to have a sister. I have a wonderful sister, and she is the kind who would come over and tell me to get out of bed because she would know
Hmm.
that I needed it. And, just the persistence that people who love you have for you, that they don't want to give up on you. And then with Josephine, what I really wanted to explore was how, when you're having those really low times, you're really stuck inside your own head. You're not able to think about other people very much because you're so trapped in your own head. And I wanted to show the different things that she experienced that pull her out of her own space when she realizes that her wish is affecting her family, then she's like, no, I wanted to make this wish and I only want to be the person it affects. But we're connected to everyone. So your
Mhm.
decisions and your choices are just rippling out into all of us, And so if I make a wish to never have been born, I think, oh, it's just going to be me, but my whole family is going to be affected, for better or for worse. And I wanted to show Josephine's realization that, oh my goodness, now what have I done? I don't want to lose my sister. I don't want to lose my mama. I don't want to lose my great grandmother. I want them to have these wonderful, beautiful lives. But she's so intricately woven into their lives. They're all connected. And I just wanted to show that growth that I think we've all had. You've had that moment where you're like, whoa, hold on. And when you
Yeah.
start thinking about other people and the love you have for them, it can pull you out of your own head.
I just love that about the book. And I will say I loved Alma's name too, because I don't see it very much. And I had an Aunt Alma.
Me too.
So, and she was so courageous. I loved her influence on Josephine. The way that when Joseph, and here I am just spouting off, but Josephine came back a better person because for knowing her, great grandmother. And I just thought that was awesome.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I love their relationship. But speaking of relationships, there were several love stories in this book. So my question is going to be split. For book club members, let us know in the chat which ones other than Josephine and Danny stood out to you. And then for Jennifer, um, did the storylines come easily for you for the love stories? Well, we've got Hattie and Cecil, Alma and Franklin, Eleanor and Anderson. Did they come easy to you, or did
Yeah,
one stick out more than the other?
they're all easy. What I loved about these characters is they really did show up pretty fully formed. I knew they all had distinct personalities. I knew, yeah, I don't know where it comes from because I feel like when I sit down to write, I'm just an open channel for these words because I can't always remember what I write. It just sort of flows out when I'm working on it. And so this sounds silly, but sometimes I'm just as amazed by them as you might be because I don't know. It's like I'm like outside myself. It's so strange, but it's easy for me to write about love. I love love. I'm such a love bug. It's actually more challenging for me to write a character who's edgier. So, Eleanor, her character, she
Yeah.
is this friend that I feel like I hope everyone has, like, call her at 2 a.m. She's going to help you bury the body. Like, she's that
Yeah.
friend.
We
And
all need that
I,
friend.
I totally, you need this friend that doesn't ask you any questions and is, really direct and honest, but she also really loves Alma. And they have this, she's protective of Alma. But the love, they're all different, but I didn't have any trouble writing them. I think I had more trouble knowing that this is the spoiler zone, that Josephine
Mhm.
wasn't gonna stay with Danny. Like about three-quarters
Yeah.
of the way through, I knew that she couldn't just stay in the 20s, which means she's leaving him, and I love him.
Yeah. We're gonna dive into that. We had so many questions about that. Well, I don't know. Do you wanna let me
Yeah,
read
let's
some of
go.
the answers for the love
Yeah,
stories,
go ahead and then we'll dive into some more of
and
the.
then we'll dive into that because we did have several questions about that. So Leah says, being a widow is tough. You lose your identity in the other half of you. I could totally relate to Josephine's loss. Joy says maybe there should be a sequel so we can see what happens with Josephine and Elliot. Is what Joy says. Alma was her favorite character, Michelle. Let's see. Not a lot of fans of Barbara. Susan didn't
No
like Barbara.
surprise there.
Right. Too
Busybody.
many rules too many
Busybody
rules to have a
Barbara.
permit to changes. But Hattie and Cecil, that was her love story pick. Brenda says she loves the friendship between Josephine and her grandmother and wished it could have continued on
Mhm.
at the end. A lot of people love the grandparents. and the friendships Alma had with her two friends were very different and interesting.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
and people are still commenting, so keep them coming, guys.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and here's the thing, and this wasn't one of the choices, so I'm,
Okay.
because it was which of the love stories did you like, but I just really enjoyed Leo and his role in the story because at first you don't kind of realize he plays a really pivotal role in
Yeah.
as sort of the gatekeeper of the what did you call it now? Oh, the magical portal.
Yeah, the portal.
Yeah.
Not the gatekeeper, but you
Right.
know,
He is your wise man in the story. He's got some information, like a mentor, but not really, but he's got special
yeah.
information that only he has.
And at first we think, oh yeah, he saved the door. That's cool.
He was so much more than a door saver.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, we haven't talked yet about the jazz. Well, you did a little bit in the beginning, but I know I posted on our page yesterday your Spotify playlist for the book, and the people just loved it. But do you have a particular affinity for the jazz A's or the music, or how did that come to be the time you wanted to spotlight?
I don't know why, but I love the 20s. I mean, as in like, I know there's a lot of things to love, but I don't know why that one sticks out, at the top of the list from other times. It's just, I love the dresses. I love the music. I love the dancing. I especially love the dancing. The idea of going out with my girlfriends dancing is just so fun to me. I've said this before. I'm not a great dancer. I'm not a bad dancer, but I mean, I'm not gonna, so you think you can dance, get up there and do that. But I love moving. I just love having a good time. And I feel like dancing, when you're not worried about what you look like, is just so exhilarating. And so the fact that you could learn a dance, but then get out there with your girlfriends and everybody's kind of doing the same thing. I feel like it's a jazzier version of the grapevine, that you could you could do these moves together. And I just love the way they got dressed up and they went out together. They'd get really dressed up for dinners, which I know is a lot of work, but it also sounds kind of fun to do like a theme party and everybody gets dressed up and they did that all the time. And I love Gatsby. I mean, that one is way over the top, right? No, nothing
Yeah.
about Josephine is Gatsby level, but there's
Hmm.
something so extravagant and just outrageous about how flamboyant people, were at these parties and just because they had been so restricted, especially women, we'd been really restricted. And this was one of the first times they were sort of being, well, not first times, but more outwardly rebellious about what they wanted to do. And that's fun to me. I love a rebellious woman.
Me too.
She was rebellious, but she was a righteous woman too, because she was, standing up for her, you know,
Yeah.
for the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So
But it
I
was
I
still it
loved
was
it.
still rebellious in a way, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
she was still using the system in a good way, but using the system because she knew how it worked. And I love that about Alma, that she was using all the tools that she had given her status to then help other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, since we're talking about the 20s and the era and the outfits and the music, one of the things that we got asked the most was, you kind of mentioned that you knew that Josephine would not stay in 1927. So what made you come about that decision? And did you ever consider bringing Danny forward to present time?
Gosh, this was so hard, y'all, because I did not know how the story was going to end. I think this is the first book I have ever written that I didn't know how it was going to end because I knew it could go either way. And when I started writing, I knew that it could go either way. And I wanted to write the story and just organically see what happened with the characters. And okay, so when I got to the point when I realized that she couldn't stay, it had more to do with it's kind of easy. I mean, nothing's easy, but it was easier for me to have her just stay in the 20s. because life was not easy there, but I just feel like that decision still negated her finding herself and doing her own life, and going back to the 20s. I know that would be a version of life, but it's not her life. It's this, I don't know. I might be having a hard time articulating it, but I wanted
Oh, you're
Josephine,
doing great.
I wanted her to
Yeah.
choose her present day because this right now is our life right here. Would it be cool to go to the 20s and fall in love with this super hot guy? Yeah, of course. But I'm still, in a way, leaving my life for something that I think is going to be better. I'm still not standing on my own 2 feet completely. And I know that Josephine had that struggle with it's easy for her to vanish into a relationship. And is that what
Hmm.
being with Danny would be like? And also, there are people in the present day who love her and want her there
Yeah.
too. And, she has built this life with her parents and her sister. And, she met Lita, right? And the possibility of a friendship. And I just wanted her to go back home and make her own way. And
Yeah.
what if she could go
Oh,
back to the
absolutely.
20s one day? We don't know. I mean, she could, but I just wanted Danny to have his own life too. I felt like their meeting and their brief relationship gave them the belief that they could fall in love again. It healed them in a way that they could open their heart back up.
Yeah,
That's
definitely. I think a lot of people were saying, I wonder if she thought of bringing him to the present. And then we also, as a follow-up about a sequel, a couple of people have mentioned sequel. And one quick comment I want to share. Irene says, how about a little story about Josephine as a child and Alma? That might be fun to see that relationship.
Oh, that's a
Mm.
great idea. It could be maybe a short story.
A little novella.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Ah.
I love that y'all love the characters. I really appreciate
Oh,
that 'cause I
yeah.
love them too.
Yeah. You did
Well, I
a
tell
great
you,
job with the characters.
oh, you did. And I was struggling when she was, knowing that she had to leave Danny. And I was thinking, I know she's probably got to go back because she'll mess everything up if she stays. And, but still, as you said so well, they healed each other in enough of a way that they knew they could love again. So it was okay. But still, I did the little happy dance when Elliot came along at the end.
Yeah.
I think we all did the little happy dance.
How many people did the happy dance? I want to know.
Yeah, let us know in the chat.
Happy dance or no happy dance?
My little happy
That
Hmm.
might be the silliest poll question I've ever asked.
dance. Maybe, maybe not.
So I'm curious, out of all of the events and the things that hinged upon each other, what was the hardest scene for you to write?
Oh,
Hmm.
goodness gracious. Not because it was difficult subject matter, but when I keep forgetting we're at the spoilers, when they're escaping the speakeasy, ma-
Uh-huh.
making that dramatic enough where you're kind of freaked out as a reader because you don't know what's going to happen with the gunman. You don't know if Alma's going to actually make it. You don't, I mean, what if someone else gets shot instead of Alma? You know how when you change one thing, you've got the butterfly effect. Like, who knows what
Yeah.
it's going to do? I mean, what if Danny got shot? So, I rewrote that scene a few times, amping up the tension because the first time I wrote it, it was like they got away too easy. And I thought, that's not, that's too easy. And I think that was the most challenging is like I'm saying, making that tense enough where you might be worried. I mean, Alma falls down, and then you've got that moment too, which I did love when Hattie and Eleanor both realized that Josephine was telling the truth. Like that felt really cool to me that she has that moment where sh- you know
Mm-hmm.
they have to realize that she wasn't lying, which means everything else she has said is probably also true. But that was a fun scene, but just challenging to make sure that I didn't let you off too easy.
Well, I love that it was Hattie because she's the one, she's the friend or the whatever who is like always trying to keep you on your,
Hmm.
keep you on the straight and narrow. So it's just fun to me that she was the one who kind of knew, hey, she's just like popping in here out of nowhere. So it was neat that that was the case.
Well, I'm happy to report there's a lot of happy dancing going on in the
Oh,
chat.
good.
Memes and dancing and
I love the memes.
emojis, all of it.
Oh,
So they're not alone with the happy dance. Lots of happy dancing in the chat. And everyone was so happy when Elliot showed up. We're
yay.
a lot of Elliot fans.
And of course, we
Yeah.
don't really know what happens, but we think we know what happens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe we'll know later.
So, I actually have an advanced question from Instagram, and the question is, I loved the speakeasy, like that you highlighted the speakeasy, and wanted to know if you've ever been to a speakeasy, and if so, where was it?
Okay. So, yes, I have been to a speakeasy and it was in New York, believe it or not. And it was
Well,
inside of a hotel. This is going to sound like I'm making this up, but I swear I'm not. Behind a bookcase.
no,
And
I've been to one behind a bookcase too, but it wasn't in New York.
and it was it only opened at nighttime, obviously, but because we were there and my book was in the hotel, so people had the hotel had bought a bunch of books to put on the bedside tables for people. And so when we were there, they were telling me about the speakeasy, and I asked if we could just take a look and get into it. And so there was nobody in there, which was really fun because you could walk around and look at everything, but it was behind the bookcase and it was
So cool.
just like you think it's going to look, leather furniture, like that dark wood. It was set up. I mean, it was beautiful inside there, but definitely had that speakeasy, kind of hidden thing. And they had tables set up that looked like you could play a game of cards while you were in there and gamble, but it was really cool. And they actually have some here in Nashville too that you need a password to get into. I mean, they'll tell you what the
Yeah.
password is, but
We
they,
have a couple in
yeah,
Atlanta too. Yeah.
it's fun. I love just that vibe that it has. Just, I don't know. There's something super cool to it about, probably because I love the 20s, but
Yeah.
they just have a feeling to them when you're in there.
It's a totally different vibe than like going to just a bar. Like we have a
Right.
couple in Atlanta. There's two that are really cool. One of them is like super, super, super secret. Like you can't even find it online. And it's so cool. It's you walk in and it looks like it's an office and there's a secretary and then there's a file cabinet. You go around, you pull the file cabinet and then you walk in and it's this amazing speakeasy. They have a bookcase that's one room for like if you have a private party. The coolest, there's two things about this particular speakeasy that are amazing. The first one is um the fireplace burns in the profile of Alfred Hitchcock. So it's like this profile of Alfred Hitchcock, and that's how the fire burns. It's amazing. And then there's a button in the ladies' room that says press champagne, press for champagne. And if you
What?
press it when you come out, there's a woman standing there with a glass of champagne for you. So it's the coolest place ever.
Oh my God,
Like
that's
I said, it's super, super, super secret. You can't find it online, and I can't say the name of it. But if you guys ask me privately, I will tell you.
okay. I think I'm going to be asking later. I just love how, I think it's the secret vibe of it too that makes it
Mhm.
feel
Yeah,
special, that you're in there and they've got all those little gadgets and that they're so thoughtful about how they have recreated them that they do just feel like you just feel fancy when you're in there.
and they have the books. They have all the old books, and they play the jazz music. It's so
Oh,
neat. It's
neat.
so cool. Yeah.
Clearly, I am not cool enough to know about speakeasies because I didn't really know what they were. I mean, I guess I figured that was a term for a cool bar, but I didn't really, make the cultural connection or whatever.
Well, now you've got to go.
And now I know Lisa is cool enough to know about a secret, secret, secret speakeasy.
Well, there's a couple here, but that one is pretty cool. So we've got someone, Sharon says in the chat, she went to one and she was, I guess she was inspired to go from reading this book, but she says she went to one that had a counter like at a hardware store, and you went in through a sliding door to get in. Yeah, those. Oh yeah, tell us in the chat. Tell us about your speakeasies that you've been to that you like, or if they're cool. The other one in Atlanta, you walk in and it looks like you're at a dessert bar. Like it just looks like a donut shop. And then there's like a freezer door that you walk through, and it's like this amazing speakeasy in the back. There's like all these
What?
cool entrances. Yeah. So tell us in the chat some of your favorite speakeasies, and
Lisa,
we'll
Lisa,
compare stories.
I've heard there's another one in Atlanta that is a phone booth. And
Yes, I've
do you
been
get
to
the
that one
phone and then
too.
you the password. Oh my God. I mean,
And but
that's
they
Just
will give
kidding.
you the pass, but they're really that one's called the red phone booth, and they really they try to keep the password a secret, but they don't. That one's really nice too. It's cool. It's like this phone booth, and they recently uh for Dragon Con they redid it for blue like Doctor Who. They redid the whole thing like Doctor Who. So it was blue. But that one, it's super cool, but it's a cigar bar, so that one's kind of
oh,
smoky on the
okay.
inside.
Okay.
Cool. It's still very cool vibes, but if you don't mind the cigar smoke, that's a really cool one to go to as well. It's downtown. Yeah.
How neat that they changed the color for Dragon Con to be Doctor Who. That's
Yeah, it was like a
awesome.
whole Doctor Who thing, and then you walked in the phone booth. It's so cool. I forgot about that one. That one's
Wow.
really cool too. Yeah. We got a couple here. We do have a couple here.
Yeah, Lisa and I got into a whole rabbit hole over the speakeasy.
Yeah. People are talking about it in the chat too. So
Oh, that's awesome. Well, we may have some more questions in the chat, and if we do, we'll get to them. But I did want to ask you, since we're not quite we're not out of time, but we
we
want to
still
make
got
sure
one.
we get to some things. Like we'd love for you to talk about your podcast,
Oh,
so
okay.
our book club members will know more about it.
Oh, well, thank you for asking about it.
Yes.
So I am part of a podcast. I co-host it with two other authors, Carrie Ann King. She also writes underneath the name, or if that's not the right word, but she has two names, Carrie Ann King and Carrie Schaefer, and that's because she's got multiple genres. And as readers, if we're dedicated to Carrie Ann King books, and then her next book is a thriller mystery, then it's Carrie Schaefer and Maddie Dawson. And it came about, I don't say randomly because nothing is random, but Carrie reached out to me and she said, I'd love to collaborate on something with you. And I'm always up for fun, creative stuff. And I said, yes, I would love that. And so she said, I want to introduce you to Maddie. And the three of us got on a Zoom call. It's probably been 6 months ago, probably. And Carrie just had the idea to start a podcast. And I was like, yes. So, one thing that all three of us really, I mean, we love a lot of the same stuff, but one thing we really love is looking for the happiness, looking for the good things, and looking for the kindness and the love. Because, every day we have moments where it's easy to kind of get frustrated, or, I mean, you know how it is. It's just being part of the human. It's just hard sometimes. But we like to flip the script on that and offer a different perspective on things just to kind of help us along and help us see that, just because one door closes, it doesn't mean the window didn't open, things like that. So it's not about pretending life isn't a struggle sometimes. It's about helping each other through the struggles and saying, hey, but what about this over here? And so we titled it One Happy Thing. And every episode, they're all short. They're about 15 minutes, so they're total bite size. We present a challenge of sorts, and then we flip the script on it and we offer an alternate perspective. We're looking for silver linings, we're looking for just the goodness in every day, which we know exists. And it's been so fun. We have the most fun when we record these episodes, and we always feel so good after we get done with them. But we just started it. I want to say November is when episode one came out. So they come out twice a month.
Yes.
You can find it on any any streaming place that you get your podcast, Spotify or Apple, wherever you go, you can find it. And we just love doing it. We love sharing good, happy things. And if you need a pick me up or something uplifting, I just pick an episode. It's only 15 minutes, and I will almost guarantee you, unless you're really stuck, you're going to feel better after you listen to them.
I love that.
Thank you.
I do
Can
too.
you
It's
repeat the name
definitely.
one more time? Someone
Yes.
said, can you repeat?
It's called One Happy Thing Podcast.
Awesome. I do have another question from the chat, and I tend to agree. Francine says, I loved the cover. Did you pick out the cover and how much were you involved in the cover?
Well, thank you, Francine. I appreciate that. It is a beautiful cover. So, how it works for my publisher, I want to say it's months and months before the book, actually, maybe even a year before the book comes out. There is this Word document that I fill out that's full of questions like, who are the characters in this book? What do they look like? What season is it? Are there any objects in the book that are special that you want to you know, showcase? Who do you think reads this book? What kind of blogs do those people read? Where do they go to shop? I mean, it is full of stuff that is just a lot of stuff. And also, are there other covers that you really love that you feel like are maybe would be similar? Not similar as in matchy matchy, but is there another
Mhm.
cover that you've seen that you think, oh, this type of design? So pretend it was an Art Deco cover. I would pull other Art Deco covers up. So it's about 4 or 5 pages long. And then you send it in to the designer because there's a good chance your designer hasn't read your book. So that's why they want as many details as possible. They ask about colors, if you want people on the cover. I am not a cover designer. I would not pretend that I know how to design covers, but I know beautiful things. And so I
Mm.
I have zero idea what the cover should look like. Like I'm probably your best candidate for making a cover for because I'm not going to give you anything. I have no idea. And this was the first cover I saw. It was beautiful. I'm just
I
like, this
love
is
it.
perfect. Every cover I have gotten is just they're beautiful to me. And I think it's a great fit. I mean, I don't know if that's because I've got no expectations. I mean, I know it's going to be beautiful, but I have no preconceived idea of what it should look like, but they just nail it for me every time. So they definitely ask me for my opinion. It's important to them that I do love it. And fortunately, I do love it.
I love it. I love it too. It's great. And I think after you've read it and you go back and look at it, you see the door before you read it,
Mhm.
but after you read it, you really see the door. You know what I mean? Like it really
Yeah.
means that much more to you. I just think that was such a perfect detail. So it doesn't jump out at you and scream like, hey, the door is important. Like it's good for those who haven't read it, but better for those that have. So I
Thank you.
love it. I think it's great. And speaking
Yeah.
of the door, I have another question that I think is really cool for us to do. And for people in the watching along, you can also answer in the chat. If you could walk through an amazing door, like Josephine did, into any time period and meet a family member of yours, who would you meet? Who would you want to meet? And what time period would you want to travel to?
Oh, this is so tough. Okay, so I swear I'm not full of sad stories, but I am full of sad stories. But my mama passed away when I was 9. And
Oh, I'm
I,
sorry.
oh, thank you. I mean, it's just part of, it's just part of who I am. And my daddy remarried years later, a wonderful woman. So I have two mamas, and I'm grateful for both of them. I would really like to meet my mama as an adult when I'm an adult. She was only
Oh,
35, and so I have outlived her. And I just have this feeling, you know how when Josephine shows up, Alma's just drawn to her in a way, and Hattie's super
Hmm.
suspicious, but Alma's like, I think she feels like she's okay. I just have this idea that if you met one of your family members in the past, they would just feel a connection to you because you are connected, and time is irrelevant if you really get into physics and quantum physics. It there's like time doesn't matter in a way, it's not linear. And so you're always connected. It's almost like you can show up in the past and they know you. They have a feeling about who you are because you're connected in the future. But I would just love to have a conversation with her. People tell me that we have a lot in common, that we act a lot alike. And because I was so young, I only saw her as my mama. And you just don't see your mama the same way that you would if I met her right now and as an adult. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I'd just love to have a conversation with her and just see what she was like. And it just sounds fun, so that would be the 80s. I mean, which means I could wear fluorescent colors, a
Oh yeah,
nice
fun.
ponytail. I mean, I could do it right.
Oh, that's beautiful. But
What
I
about
know
you,
exactly.
Brenda?
Oh gosh, you turn the tables. Oh, I need a moment to think.
Okay.
We've got a couple answers coming through in the chat. I think I'm not good with time periods or names for that matter, but recently in my family, we did a family tree thing, and I found out that one of my cousins, I think, on my dad's side, so it'd be like cousin, like down the line, he was a Tuskegee Airman.
Oh,
And I think it
cool.
would be really cool to meet him and talk to him about being a Tuskegee Airman. I think that's a part of our history
Yeah,
that is so cool.
yeah.
So I would love to meet him in whatever era that is.
I don't ask me, but I know what you're talking about, but I wouldn't be able to place the time. So forgive
Yeah,
Lisa and I for not knowing times like that, but we know
not
that.
good with
No, me neither.
know
Well,
the
I think,
importance of it.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that, I mean, that's hard because I do have family members that I don't know who've been in sort of pivotal times in history as just regular people that would be interesting. But ever since I read Kimberly's book about Eleanor Dare, I know there's this this is a connection to Virginia Dare.
Mhm.
And I would like to know what happened to the lost colony.
Yeah, that'd be
Very cool.
yeah, I love history. I mean, I wouldn't tell you I'm a history buff, but I love lots of things about history and that would be super cool to find out because then you could come back and tell us.
Right. That would
Yeah.
be so cool.
Now that's not a place I would want to stay,
No.
mind you,
Right.
like the Jazz Age.
I know. No. You know what's fascinating too about asking this question? I imagine people in the chat have lots of responses too that
You do have
we
some good
all
ones.
we all pick different places and times,
Yeah.
which is super cool. Like even my family, we were sitting around the table talking. I just asked them, I was like, where would you don't have to live there. You're just popping back and forth. Everybody had a different time they wanted to go to.
Neat.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
asked
So
that around the dinner table. That is very cool.
that is cool. That's a great icebreaker, though, for like dinner. That's a great icebreaker question. I'll share a few. We have some coming through, so we'll definitely come back and look at them. But I wanted to share a couple that have popped up. Diane says she wants to go back to 1949 and meet her sister that only lived for 4 months. I would have loved to have met her older sister. Um, Lisette says she'd like to meet her mom back when she was living in Miami, and her mom passed away when she was in college.
Oh,
Mm.
I feel
And Leslie wants to meet her great grandmother on her grandfather's side. She was Acadian and she was a strong woman. I would love to meet her as a young woman. Very cool.
Oh,
cool.
Yeah. Oh, Lori told me it would be the 1940s. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, for the
She,
Tuskegee
for the
Airmen. Yeah,
Tuskegee
right.
Airmen to be in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
40s.
Yeah. Okay.
That's cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
that is very cool. I tell you what, I can't even believe it, but it's
Oh
almost
no.
8 o'clock. So we're not leaving yet, but we do need to ask Jennifer some questions about things that are coming up. And first of all, where can our book club members find you if they want to come on tour, if they want to meet you on a tour stop, and where can they find you on social media?
Okay. Well, I would love to meet anybody who is, I've met a lot of the members already when we were out. So I was on tour from the 14th of January, and I think I just got home last Thursday, and we were gone for quite some time. So I got to meet a bunch of y'all, which was awesome. And then I'll be going back out in April. So I'll be going to South Carolina and North Carolina area, but you can connect with me at jennifermoorman.com. My events page has all the stuff I'm doing for the next few months. And then on social media, on Facebook, it's Jennifer Moorman Books. And then I'm on Instagram at Jennifer R. Moorman. So there'll be two R's side by side, but my middle name is Renee. So that's Jennifer
Oh,
Moorman.
that's pretty.
And thank you. That was my mama's name. So I love that.
Oh,
Yeah. So I'd love to connect with anybody. I check my own email. I do check my messages. So if anybody wants to share anything with me or chat with me, I'm always around.
and
Yay. I
one
love
other
it.
question is if someone wants to get a signed copy of your book, where could they do that?
You can buy those through my website. I have a shop on my
Okay.
website, so you can buy any of my books and I will sign them. I'll personalize them if you want to. It just depends on what you're interested in. I can just sign it, but if you want me to sign it to you or someone else, I'm happy to do that.
Very cool. I have a message in the chat. Biscuit, our beloved book
Yeah.
club doggy that we all love. Biscuit says hello.
Hey, Biscuit.
Oh, you've met Biscuit.
I,
Okay.
I've met Biscuit a couple times.
Biscuit and Biscuit's parents are the best.
Yeah.
So I wanted to share that. And then also, can you share what you're working on next?
I can. So the title of the book, it'll be coming out January 2026, is called The Charmed Library. And I'll be able to
Ooh,
do the cover with you in a couple more months. They're going to share
yay,
it with the sales team first to present it. And as soon as they do that, I'll be able to show the cover with y'all, which I'm super excited about. I've seen it. I do love it. And
yay.
the idea for this book came from because I have always wanted to spend the night in a library because I think that would be magical. I bet some of
So
y'all do. And the story is about a woman who works in the library and she discovers that she can bring fictional characters out of their books. And what happens when she does that? Chaos, probably.
love it. I feel like
Love it. Yeah.
you have no idea how that title like sums up me and Brenda because I like witchy and she loves any books about libraries, bookstores. So Charmed is like me and libraries. When you said the title, we both went, ooh,
Ooh.
Yay. It's a
what?
really fun story. It really is fun, and I feel like it just speaks to the heart, my heart, but book lovers' hearts, library and the magic in books and just being surrounded by them and our favorite fictional characters.
All
So
right.
cool.
We can't wait for that one. Oh my
I
goodness.
know.
Thank you.
Yes.
That is a nice surprise.
Yeah, we'll be looking out for that cover too. We'll definitely promote it on the page. So let us know.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for taking I can't believe it's already
I
almost
know. It passed so quickly.
Yeah.
But
Thank
thanks
you
so much
so
for
much.
sharing your evening with us and your thoughts about the book. It was fabulous, and all our book club members have just been big fans of it. So
Thank
I have to
Raving
hold up my
about it.
Kindle.
Well, thank you
Yay.
It's
for
going to take
having
me a
me.
minute, but
Okay.
here we go.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yay.
I've had a wonderful time. Everybody is so supportive and loving and just so kind, and I'm super duper grateful. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we're so happy to have you, and you've been amazing. And thanks for being so open and chatting about this amazing book with us that we all love. We just loved it so much. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a great rest of your evening. I'm so excited that we had this conversation tonight.
Oh, my face. I'm like, I'm so happy. Good night. Oh,
Oh, that
she
was so
is
good.
just delightful.
She totally is. And I just love her. And you know what? If anybody has a chance, go by her website because it's really cool looking. She definitely has the magical touch
Her
on her
website is
website.
Super cool. And I wanted to ask her about this, but her other books, I believe some of her other books have recipes in them, like I think it's called The Baker's Man. I'm not sure. Someone correct me in the chat if you know, because our book club people are the best and they know everything. But I think that's so cool that she would include a recipe with her. So I think that's really cool. And I can't wait for the Charmed Library. That just sounds
I
super cool.
know. It sounds so good. Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
wait either.
And I, like you said, mentioned her website. Also, if you can follow her on social media, I love her Instagram. She is so active and so kind. So definitely keep up with her. And if you have the chance to see her on tour, do it. She's so sweet. So what a fun night.
I know, absolutely. We do have some other stuff coming up though, so
Da, da,
let's kind
da.
of run through those because I
Let's
know
do
our
it.
next book club. Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
I was like, let's do it.
Oh, you said let's do it. Okay. Well, our March pick that we'll be discussing is People of Means with Nancy Johnson. We are so looking forward to this one. Thank you, Lisa, for holding it up.
This is my
And
book happy
then,
dance.
yes, Happy Dance. And then it's going to take me a minute, but
I got
then
it.
for April, we have, she's beat me to it. Sorry, I was a little slow on the uptake there.
Nope, you are good.
For April 21st, we have Patty Callahan Henry joining us for the story she left behind. And if I
Yay.
do this right, we'll be able to do May. Yay! Um,
Woo.
May is going to
I,
be May 19th with Viola Shipman and The Page Turner, which I'm also really looking forward to. Lisa, you were doing an outstanding job. An outstanding job with the book holding.
Lisette said if you sign up for the email list, she sends recipes. Thank you, Lisette, for confirming that.
And just a reminder, the reading challenge for this month, there's still 4 days left in this month to read a novel by a Black, Indigenous, person of color author. BIPOC is the acronym. And then March coming up is sci-fi or fantasy book, which actually I think Vanishing of Josephine Reynolds would qualify. We're not the book
Like,
reading police,
yeah, we're not the
but
reading police.
yeah,
It's a
but
little
there's
magical
there's some
realism.
magical realism in there, or realistic magicalism, whichever.
Magicalism. And I also want to point out that May 22nd is our next happy hour with Ron Block, and he is surprising us with a guest that we have no idea who it is. So that should be fun. And we also want to remind everyone that March 17th is St. Patty's Day because we will be celebrating the launch of this fantastic book in Atlanta, and the whole Friends and Fiction team will be there. The Fab Four will be there. Ron and Meg will be there. Brenda and I will be there. And our admin team, Molly and Amber, will be there too. So it's just a big old family affair. So if you're going to be in Atlanta, it's at the Atlanta History Center. You can get your tickets for March 17th. And Brenda and I and the book club girls, we're going to be hosting a brunch on the 16th. And we will be sharing that information shortly with the details of where. So we've got a lot going on. Fun times.
Absolutely. And not to mention, Atlanta is our hotspot for this beginning of the year because on April 8th in Atlanta, we're going to be helping Wade Rouse, aka Viola Shipman, launch the Page Turner with a big celebration in Atlanta, and we will be in conversation with him. So we are very excited about that.
Very
If you can
excited. And
join us, please do.
those tickets are available now through Foxtail on their website. So we will see you guys out and about and doing fun bookish things. Thank you for joining
Absolutely.
us tonight. Thank you for reading this fabulous book that we all loved. And that's it.
I'll just say happy reading so Lisa can say,
PB&J out.